Hey there, everybody. This is Carrie, and I am back with another episode of Unleashed. I'm really excited for this episode. Today I'm bringing you a gentleman named Steve Des, and except for the last 5 minutes, I don't know him at all. And I found out lately after interviewing a few other people who I didn't know at all, it was really fun to not have a clue what I'm getting into. So we're just going to chit chat and go from there. So Steve, I would call a Hollywood creative. I don't even know what else. Like, he's into writing and he's a stand-up comic, which will be great because I'm totally unfunny and I also don't get funny. So we'll have to see what happens here. You started off kind of doing plays with Barbies, and now you're on stage and producing and directing and all kinds of things. So can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, yeah, my story is a little crazy since the beginning and stuff, but you mentioned pretty good portions of it. Yeah, I started pretty much. Uh, my story really starts with my parents because I have to include them in this. I cannot leave them behind. So my parents are both from Dominican Republic, and Dominican Republic is an island that's next to Puerto Rico, and that's where I was born. So my both of my parents are immigrants. They both went on a boat from Dominican Republic to Puerto Rico, uh, essentially at that time illegally, to have a better life because the Dominican Republic is its own little country, but it's really like a third world country. There's a lot of people live in super poverty levels. Very little people succeed, and they have a different currency. So they moved to Puerto Rico to have like a better chance at life. And I was thankfully born and raised there. So that made me an American citizen because I was born in Puerto Rico, which is a US territory. And since I was very young, I knew I was different and special for many different reasons. One being that I am the only person in my entire family that just was born an American, technically, versus like everybody in my family, including my sisters, they have to become residents to then become citizens. So they had to go through a longer process that I had to go through. And the other reason being because I was the youngest, the only boy, and the only person that was interested in being creative. Everybody else was pretty much like, I'm gonna do a job, I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna make money and keep doing that. And I was more focused on like I wanna create, I wanted to be creative, I wanna create things. So I started because we didn't have that many resources, money and things. We just had like Barbies that had three older sisters. And I started doing little plays with with the dolls and like and then at that time my dad was really into wrestling. So I got like really into wrestling as well. So I started like playing with the dolls, like they were like wrestling each other and stuff like that. And that's kind of how my creativity and this world that I started creating that I now live on started. It was pretty much from the start in Puerto Rico, small little house in like one of the worst neighborhoods of all time back in those days, especially in the 90s. Like the world in general was pretty crazy, but specifically in that town that I live, it was really insane because I live around literally like for me to not hear gunshots at night, it was like rare because that was like a everyday type of situation where I grew up specifically.
Was it gang violence or
It,
just
it was a little bit of everything. So basically, I lived in like a ghetto. So let's say, well, I can only relate to LA and like Puerto Rico stuff. That's mainly what I know. But like, let's say, just thinking about sports teams. So let's say the Lakers and the Clippers and the Golden State Warriors, they all live close to each other, like very close to each other. So it was more like a territorial turf type of thing. Like we own this part. So it was like where I live was Berwyn, and then in front of Berwyn there was this place called Monteatillo, which was one of the craziest gang and neighborhoods. And then in the other side of Berwyn there was Villa Prades, which was like a minor one, but still they were fighting for territory as well. It was like a constant battle between these three entities constantly, like, gang related, drug related, and all that stuff. So for the longest time, like when that became so rampant to the point that like even my life almost got threatened, that's when my mom pretty much like completely did not allow me to play outside at all. And that's kind of like what formed me started playing and creating my own little world inside because I couldn't really go outside and play with other kids or anything.
That answers my question. I was going to ask how you stayed out of it or if you did, but I guess that explains it. Um,
Yeah. And then on top of that, to make matters even worse, it wasn't that I was completely safe where I was living. Uh, my family, thankfully, never had issues. And this is my family in general. I'm talking grandparents, uncles, cousins, everything that I know at least. Nobody had like problems with alcohol because my family was pretty much like, let's just have one drink and that's it. Nobody really smoked. Like I maybe saw one uncle smoke a cigarette in my life, and nobody had like drug problems or anything. But my dad had anger issues, like crazy anger issues, and how he would like unleash that it was through physical violence, and he would like hit my mom, he would hit my sisters, he would hit me, and I will more often than not, I was the one receiving the worst punishment because I was the boy, so I can like withstand more pain and stuff like that. And so yeah, so like inside, like even in my home, it was terrible, and I just couldn't even believe that I was like living in this type of reality where there's like a war zone outside, and there's also a war zone like inside my house. So I kind of needed to start creating and figure out ways for me to escape and not necessarily accept that as my entire reality. And one thing that helped me was comedy. So I started. Thankfully, my dad was a little technological advanced, so we had like a lot of American TV growing up, and I watch. He used to watch like HBO a lot. He used to watch like Sopranos, Sex and the City, and shows like that. And he will leave the TV on, and I couldn't sleep, and I developed insomnia because of that. But I started watching what was happening with that. And afterwards, after those shows were over, uh, Richard Pryor, John Leguizamo, George Lopez, George Carlin, like all these comedians will come on TV, and then I was like, "What's that?" And that's so funny, and like I want to do that. And that's when I started like seeing that there was a whole another world that's like way outside my world, but it's something that I wanted to be part of. And that's when I really solidified my dream when I was like 6 years old that I wanted to be like a comedian at some point in my life. But it was such a distant dream because where I lived in Puerto Rico, even up to this day, there's not really a comedy club per se that you can go and perform comedy.
so you had this kid dream and it lasted this whole time and now you're living it.
Yes, but it
How
took it took a long time to get there.
that's amazing that you stuck with it. How old are you?
I am 27 years old.
27. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so you said you knew you were different. How did your family feel about that? Were they supportive of, doing wrestling with Barbies and wanting to be do comedy?
Not entirely. My dad at the beginning, he was like, he asked me like what I wanted to be when I grew up. The first thing, like when you ask a kid that question, usually they say a policeman or a fireman and stuff like that, because it's what they know. At that time, the only thing that I knew, because this was like prior me even watching stand-up comedy, it was I want to be a clown. And the reason being is because at that time that was the only thing that I saw that put smiles on people's faces, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give everybody a good time, and I wanted to basically do the opposite of what I was living at the time. And then my dad one day pretty much like smacked me and told me, "You will never be a clown because clowns don't make money." And essentially, I had to change my dream. And when I saw stand-up comedy, I was like, "Well, these people are performing in front of crowds. Some of them are making movies and stuff like that. So I'm assuming, oh, this makes money. So that's what I should do because it's still related to what I want to do. I don't have to paint my face necessarily, but I get to put smiles on people's faces, and that's how I like discovered that little thing. Uh, yeah, when it came to comedy.
And what about when you were in school? Did this creative side come in conflict with school, or was it supported?
So in school things change because then I'm getting introduced to new people and a whole new environment. And in school I was still, especially like in the early years, I was still struggling to find myself. And the reason why I struggle so much is because I changed schools a lot. So I started in public school. I went to public school from kindergarten to like about first grade. Then from second to third grade, I went to a very small private school. And then in fourth grade, I was going to transition to a new school. But on top of that, I was doing karate and I broke my left hand. So I broke the bone on my left hand and I was going to be on a cast for 11 months. And at this point, I was transitioning to a new school. So I was at that in fourth grade, new school, broken hand. I was the most depressed and angry kid you could ever meet because the last thing I wanted was to make new friends, be in a new environment. I was struggling with my hand. I couldn't do sports. I was so pissed as like in fourth grade. Uh, and until I convinced later like coaches of track and field that I was gonna get my cast. Essentially, my cast was up to my shoulder, like all the way to my shoulder, and I hated life that way. Like I had to live with this for 11 months. But then, thankfully, one of my neighbors also was had a cast the same way that I had, and I saw that he later cut his cast to be like way shorter, but he did it himself. And I convinced some of the track and field coaches to let me at least train with a cast. And they said, as long as I can cut my cast, they'll let me do that. And I got a chance to kind of like unleash like all these energy that I had inside through sports. Even with a cast on doing track and field, I was like the only kid ever that I know that was running with a cast competitively. And I was winning races because I just had so much built up inside. Uh, so sports really became at that point, especially when I got into that school, because that was a school I got locked into the time I graduated high school. I started just trying different sports and seeing exactly what I liked. Because even I was doing track, I was kind of doing that because I needed something. I just needed whatever it was an outlet for me to like release energy. And but I really didn't like it. It wasn't the funnest thing for me. I just did it because I had to. And then I tried volleyball, I tried swimming, I tried karate again. And it wasn't until I discovered basketball that I fell in love with a sport. And that's all I wanted to do at that time. I just wanted to be a basketball player. My dream was I was gonna be in the NBA at some point, and that was like my thing at least till I was like in sixth to seventh grade, so middle school.
What made that dream change?
Uh, Very easy. It just competition got tougher. People were getting, all these new kids were coming with scholarships to the school, and they were like 6 feet, and something. And slowly but surely, I was definitely one of the shortest kids, and I started being one of the like the tallest kids because I kind of grew. Like by fifth grade, I kind of grew to the size that I'm on today, kind of. Like I was pretty big as a kid in fifth grade, but then in sixth grade, other kids were growing. Seventh grade, more kids were growing, and I was staying the same size. So my position went from like in basketball, if you know their positions, there's a center and power forward. I was number four power forward. Then I became a small forward, three. Then I became a shooting guard. Then I became a point guard. Then I became a bench player. Then I just became useless. And I just quickly realized, oh yeah, sports are not my path because everybody's excelling way more than me, even though it's because of height or whatever.
So basketball didn't stick, but comedy did.
Yes, but comedy not necessarily yet because comedy again it was such a distant dream that I couldn't do it until I was actually in the States. So I was still in Puerto Rico at this time, and I was still growing up there. I had my challenges in school as far as like writing. I love writing creatively, but I hated writing like papers and essays and stuff like that because most teachers will criticize me like heavily, not because of my work, the content of my work, but my writing style. Because since I started early in public school, I had a teacher that the teacher that taught me how to write. She had a really bad handwriting, so I kind of developed that bad handwriting, and it was difficult for certain teachers to read what I was writing, and that's what I would get criticized on. It's just that I have handwriting, and they wanted me to improve and improve, and I tried, but I just couldn't improve. I can improve slightly, but not really. I cannot excel if this is what I got taught. Like this is already my system, so it's kind of hard to change that. And but one thing that I got really, really good at, and that's the reason I never really struggled with grades, was memorizing. So I became a really good memorizer, and I figured out the school system very early as a kid because I was like, oh, this is just a bunch of stuff they want me to repeat on a paper. Like whatever they're giving me, put the same thing on a paper, and I get an A. So I discovered that very easily, and so I was getting pretty much any grade that I wanted, I could get it. If I wanted an F, I could get an F, but I never got an F. And but if I wanted a B, I could get a B. If I want an A, I could get an A. Like that system, I very easily I kind of like reverse engineer it, and um, and that helped me with theater. So I started taking a theater class, and that helped me like start to write. I was writing scripts, and I was watching a lot of creative television. I was watching Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I was bringing those concepts, those games that I will learn from that show to school. And I was like, oh, let's play this game. And the teacher will allow me, like this teacher, because it was just such a small class. We were like 8 students. She would pretty much allow me 9 times out of 10 to like basically teach the class. And I will come with like all these crazy ideas because for the first time ever, I was like, I have a safe space where I can just be free, and that I really really enjoyed doing. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy like seeing people having fun with themselves, discovering new things about themselves they didn't know about. So I that gave me such a passion, and from that day forward, I was like, this is what I'm doing. And on top of that, the teacher that I had reinforced that on me. Like she will constantly have little meetings with me, just me and her by ourselves, and she would tell me like, you're special. You're like you're different. You think very different from all my students. You're super passionate about this. I just want to encourage you to keep going, to keep striving, never give up on your dreams. And she like was really, really encouraging me to like just keep being creative.
That
And
makes me so happy.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
that really made me happy. And up to this day, we still have such a great relationship. Like we're Facebook friends, and we talk. We don't talk all the time, but we talk like at least every 3 to 4 months. We say hi to each other. We keep up with each other what each other is doing. But she's extremely happy of everything that I've accomplished. And yeah, but she was such a big factor of me to like really push forward with what I was trying to create and do. And at the time, I had no idea. I was just trying and doing. And that was actually the first teacher also that kind of introduced the concept of meditation to us, because it wasn't like, hey, this is meditation. It was more like, hey, guys, we're going to do an exercise today. So everybody lay down, and she would like close all the windows and like have the room all like kind of like dark. And she would put like this like flute music, and she will give like a guided meditation. She'll be like, imagine there's a red ball in your forehead, and that ball's going all the way down. And like it was like things like that, and it was like really really cool. I didn't even know that I was meditating, but that's like the way that that concept got introduced in my life when I was like in seventh, eighth grade.
Do you meditate now?
Yes, yes, I meditate daily.
So for people who are listening who maybe think meditation is like weird or really hippy dippy, can you speak about it in a concrete way? Like I meditate too. It's a concept I've introduced to a lot of my students, or sometimes I'll approach it with them as, okay, we're going to do some breathing. You don't have to call it meditation if it's one of those scary, weird ideas to you, but like, why do you do it? How is it useful? Um,
So
make it
to
seem not
me,
so scary.
meditation is like having a conversation with yourself. Um, and I feel like that conversation, as years go by, is more and more rampant, and it's more and more needed, because we live in a society that there's too many distractions. And sometimes when you hop on one distraction, whatever that distraction of your choice is, you when you realize you get off that distraction, so much time has passed by. And that happens to every single one of us. I've been caught on that train that I'm just watching Netflix every day. And I've been caught on that train that I'm just like really, really following someone else's business or someone else's life instead of mine. And that happens with people on Instagram and things like that. So meditation kind of rewires my brain to not only get the focus back to me, but also it gives me like the pathways that I need to follow in my life. Because I feel life in general, this experience that we're all in, um, I feel like other people are mirrors of your life, and we seek advice from other people because we need validation, and we want to feel reassured of what we're doing. But in reality, we all already know what we're supposed to be doing. Uh, and the only way for you to really discover those things and tap into that untapped part of your life is through meditation. Uh, it's very hard to explain sometimes, because if you haven't tried it, you need to like start getting to it, and it takes a while for you to get in that zone. It's not like you're gonna meditate one time and all of a sudden all the answers of life are gonna get responded. No, because it was hard for me. Like I was falling asleep the moment I was closing my eyes and trying to pretend that I'm gonna sit down for 10 minutes. Like it was a struggle. It was it was such a struggle for me to get to the point that I am today. But once you get to that point where like I literally can sit down and within 45 seconds to 2 minutes I can get in that zone, it's everything to me. Now it's like there's not a day. If a day or two goes by and I haven't meditated, I feel awful because I know I'm robbing myself to things, opportunities, ideas that will help me even 10x my life in whatever way, shape, or form that is, whether that's financially or whether that's having better relationships or whether it's to create a brand new business or whatever that might be. I feel like I'm robbing myself if I'm not meditating. So the best advice I can give for anybody that wants to like start meditating or start to implement that into their lives is that figure out your lifestyle. If you're a person that you're busy, you're constantly doing things, and you feel like you don't have the time to sit down and do like a 5 minute to 10 minute meditation, there's apps like one that I super endorse and recommend because it helped me a lot. It's called Buddhify 2. It's on the App Store. I think it's like $5.
I'm
But
going to
that
write that
one,
down. What is it? Buddhify?
Buddhify 2.
Okay.
I think it's like $3 to $5 on the App Store, but it's completely worth it because that's more for people. That's called mindfulness everywhere. So it's for people that are constantly on the go and they feel like they don't have time. They have meditations for every situation you might be in, whether you're walking, whether you're in a car, whether you're on the airport waiting for your flight, whether you're sitting down, having a coffee, eating, sleeping, whatever the situation might be, they have tons and tons of little short meditations and little short exercises you can do. One of the ones that really completely changed my mindset was the one about sending kindness to other people. So that's that one that's about walking. So when you're walking, it tells you pick a random person on the street, the meditation, and you pick that random person, and then it goes, now forget about that person and pick a whole another person. So it kind of, in case you go like, oh, I picked that girl because she looks cute, so it kind of like pairs your biases too. So you think of people as a whole instead of like choosing and nitpicking people for whatever reason it might be. It goes, okay, pick a whole another person. Okay, that person. Okay, now to that person, literally send all the kindness and all the intention that you can saying these words. So every time you say this, send it with every positive, uplifting energy you can. So you're constantly sending kindness to this person, and then you're constantly sending kindness to a whole new another person. Then you're constantly sending kindness to a whole other person, and then at the end of that whole meditation, you're sending all that kindness back to yourself. And that one changed my perspective because it makes you notice other people as well. Because sometimes, especially in Los Angeles, that's where I live, you're constantly in your own bubble, in your own world, that you don't really pay attention to other people that are walking right beside you. So that one really helped me to like focus on like, hey, everybody's going through something, and maybe you need to be a little nicer to everybody, and also be nicer to yourself.
Yeah, I actually did a bunch of meditations like that recently, and it was crazy how impactful it was. And especially sending that kindness or that gratitude towards someone who you don't even know, um, or who you have a very neutral relationship with, and just all of that positivity going out, and then realizing, wow, I feel happy. I didn't even do anything except think good thoughts, and I feel happy.
Yeah.
It really does make a difference. One of the things I've been trying to get my students to do is practice gratitude every day. Just, 1 to 3 things you're grateful for. And I've had students say that doing it before they go to bed at night is helpful because it gets them, in a positive thought process instead of negative, and they can fall asleep faster. Some students do it in the morning because it gets them going on a positive note instead of thinking about all the bad things that might happen during the day. Um, it just, all those positive thoughts, practice of positive thoughts, I think make a big difference.
Yes. I would say like one of the most impactful things, and this I learned from Lewis House, is that I close almost every meeting that I have, asking the other person what are you grateful for. Even when I have meetings with my business partners these days, or when I'm seeing an old friend for a long time and we're saying goodbye because they're flying to another place, I'm flying to another place. I almost always end that conversation saying, "What are you most grateful for right now?" And you get a lot of insight from that, and you also put people more focused on that gratitude. And if you have a gratitude attitude, you're gonna win in life, no matter what it is. So.
How do people react when you ask that? I mean, I know for some people it's common practice, but for other people, they're like, "What? What do you mean?"
Yeah, they get thrown off a little bit. Most people, but not thrown off in a bad way. It's more like, oh, that shocked me. Like I wasn't expecting that. but they still answer it. Like pretty much, I never had like hesitation for anybody. I have people give me very surface answers, and then when I give my answer, because I let them answer first, and then I answer myself. And sometimes when I answer, then they change their answer. They want to be more specific because they see how specific I am. And yeah, I'm more like and that's going back to meditation. That's something meditation also teaches you is to be way more in the moment. Because if you're always in your brain, you're either going back to the past of something that happened to you that you're still dealing with and you haven't healed, or you're constantly thinking about the future or getting very anxious about it because maybe you are afraid of failure, or maybe you're afraid of success, and that happens too.
I notice it for me when I'm teaching, that I'm always thinking about what I did that I could have done better, or what I'm about to do so I get it right. But if I'm always thinking about those two things, it's like when I'm teaching in the present, man, what am I doing? That's the autopilot part, but really that should be the part that I'm most engaged with. And I see it with me and my kids all the time. I'm always thinking like what I'm going to do next when I really need to be right here. I'm reading this book to you. I need to be paying attention to the book and to you, not to what's happening next.
Yeah.
But I think it's so easy to see how much we don't live in the moment when we're interacting with other people.
Yeah, even myself, like now as a grown up, I I look back on my life, many things that I had to learn along the way that I was like, oh man, I wish my mom or my dad or someone would have taught me this, then I didn't have to deal with this issue or blah 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 and this and that. But at the end of the day, like I look back at those things and it's like they did the best they could. Even if it wasn't necessarily the best, nobody really has the perfect handbook to do things perfectly. So I can only judge anybody from what they're doing today, not really what they did in their past or what they're going to do in the future, but what's happening right now. So there were moments in my life where I wasn't having the best conversations with my mom. We were yelling and screaming at each other. Uh, but now, our conversations are very supportive and like we build each other up. I got my mom interested in real estate, and like being more independent and stuff like that. And she's been traveling and doing her thing. And that's beautiful to me that that at the end of the day I don't hold grudges with nobody or anything. That's why I can like very confidently talk to you about whatever happened in my past. And even though yeah, some people might listen to like what happened to me and say, oh poor kid and whatever. It's like no, but that helped me shape into the person that I am today. So I'm extremely grateful for all those bad things that happened to
Yeah, I'm a big fan of saying that your past, and especially as it relates to school, it shapes you, but it doesn't define you.
me. Yeah.
So you told me in school you kind of learned how to hack the system, for lack of a better word. Not hack the system, but you learned how to do well pretty easily.
Yeah.
Were you generally a student who wanted those A's and B's, or did you more do the bare minimum just to slide along? What worked
So
for
I
you?
so in the school that I went to, they have this thing called the Honor Society that I'm sure a lot of schools have. And in order for you to be part of the Honor Society, you have to be either to be in the High Honor Society, you have to be straight A's, but mostly A pluses. Um, and if you want to be in the Honor Society in general, you have to have all A's and only one B plus. I specifically for the longest time. I think the only time I gave up on doing that was 11th and 12th grade, so my last 2 years. But for the rest of that time, I always got all A's and two B's, specifically for me to not be part of the honor society and not be not be like qualified as a nerd.
So you
So
could have
that
had the A's,
I could have, yeah, I
but
know, I totally could have.
but you specifically decided, hey, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to be in that group.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to be looked as that. So that's the reason. Because at that time, I was like I was super social at that time. I also hacked that whole another the social system of school. I also hacked that too because I started noticing that everybody, especially as we grow up, everybody starts just hanging out in groups. Like these groups, they love rock and they just hang out. These other groups, they love Pokemon and they just hang out with each other. These other groups, they're the popular girls and they hang out with each other. And like, so I just started noticing that everybody had like their little cliques, and I was like, well, I love hanging out with him and I love hanging out with her and I love hanging out. I was like, I just want to hang out with everybody. I don't need to be part of one group. I don't need to be defined as one group. I don't know why people just choose to listen to one genre or two genres of music when there's so much. So I just literally just started like listening to everything music wise. I started hanging out with all sorts of people and started like a lot of people were inviting me into their house. So I started like getting like more life experience that way, uh, of like different things that goes in everybody's grow up experience, because not everybody grew up. I mean, if anything, I'm the only one that grew up like this, and all my other friends have different lifestyles and different experiences and different everything. So to me, that's what made it exciting for me to have new friends, is that I was constantly going to get thrilled with brand new things and brand new experiences and brand new opportunities to just like meet more people.
That I imagine helps you a lot in what you do now, just because you know people. I mean, you don't stick with just one kind, and you had so many experiences early on that you can kind of do what you want to do.
Yeah, it helped a lot. I would say I changed a lot too, because back in that day I was super extroverted. Like you would totally go like, oh, this kid is definitely a comedian. He's an actor. He's a performer. Because I was like very, very out there. But in reality, I was doing a lot of that because I still had a lot of pain inside that I needed to deal with. And in reality, I'm a shy person. I'm not really extroverted like that. These days I only do that when I'm on stage or when I'm like with very close friends. I'm like the life of the party. But if not, usually I just keep to myself. Even at conferences like Thrive that we met over there, I don't talk to that many people. I only talk to people that either someone else introduced me to, or naturally we just gravitated to each other and the conversation happened. But before, I wanted to meet everybody. If that Steve was at Thrive, I would have been friends with every single person that was in every single seat.
That sounds so much like me. I'm really shy and I'm definitely introverted, and people are always surprised to find that out. Um,
Yeah,
I was always on stage, not acting, but I did lots of readings and speeches and all of that. And now I'm not currently on stage, but I'm looking to get there, and that thought excites me. But like at Thrive, I didn't really talk to that many people, and that sort of social setting just is tough. But so I think it's encouraging to hear you say that. And so many speakers and performers will say every time they walk on a stage, they feel like they're going to barf. They're so shy. They don't know if they can do it, but yet they go out and they rock it. Um,
yeah.
so advice for any of you who, are worried you might be too shy to go out there, you totally can do it. Um, man, everything you say, I want to ask you a million questions. So creativity. Um, what are your thoughts on creativity? You're a creative. Do you think everybody is?
I feel like everybody innately is creative. I feel like everybody was put in the world to create something, whatever that is. Uh, I just feel school kills your creativity. uh, Starting with writing. Uh, I I remember like early middle school. I mean, all through school, but like early middle school, I was so passionate about writing. I was literally cranking 3 scripts for plays, and these are long scripts. These things that sometimes some people will take them years to do. I was cranking 3 plays, in like a matter of 6 months to 8 months, because I was so passionate about it. Like when you're passionate about something, and again, you don't have that many distractions because at that time we didn't have social media, we didn't have the internet like it is today. We didn't have all these different things, so I had so much more free time to like just hammer down and write a lot. So I feel like I lost a lot of my passion from writing. I'm recovering back now, but I figured later in my life that the reason that got killed was because of school, because they were making me write so much nonsense that I didn't cared about. Like I had a history teacher for years. Like he was my teacher for years. Every time we would go to his classroom, he would have both boards filled up with writing. That was like the first thing we had to do, and that would take like a whole hour, to write all that stuff down in your notebook. So doing constantly exercises of things that you don't want to write about kind of kills your passion for that, kills your creativity. Reading about stuff you don't want to read kills your creativity for reading. And just in general, for people not being or not putting themselves in the environment that they can be able to create freely, I feel also kills your creativity because then you're getting programmed to be kind of in a worker mindset. At least that was my experience. And then later, so you're just ready to work. You're not ready to create. You're ready to work. Give me a job. I'm gonna work. And I feel like that's what happened. But I feel in general, everybody is creative. Anybody can make a clothing company. Anybody can create graphics. Anybody can write a song. Anybody can write poetry. Anybody can draw something awesome that someone else will find it extremely amazing. I feel everybody innately has that, but school kind of kills it for
Yeah, and I taught writing, exclusively writing for 4 years. And I totally hear what you're saying. And the whole idea of like, you have to write this in this way. And I definitely taught that. I did teach my kids, here are the rules, here's the way I want you to write. But if you can do that, you are allowed to break any rule, any convention that you want, as long as you can tell me why you're doing it. You have to have a purpose behind why you're doing it. Um, but even looking back on it now, I wish I had given students more opportunities to be creative. Um, but I had one class one year, we were writing fractured fairy tales. Basically, you take a fairy tale and you make your own version of it. And my students, man, they just didn't want to stop. We did that project for months, and they were working at home and before school and after school. And most of them turned into me 20 pages of a fairy tale. And they were in fourth or fifth grade at the time. Um, and when I gave them that freedom to run with it, just the energy and creativity they put into it was amazing. But yet when we force them to write in a certain way, they just, most of them, some of them get excited about it, but most of them don't want to do it. And then, it's just all downhill from there. Once they have that first really negative experience, maybe they were trying to be really creative and then their teacher said like, well, that's not what you're supposed to do. And then it's a spiral.
you. Yeah, I
So
would say like especially just to piggyback on that, especially if you're a person that you feel your creativity got stifled or it just like your passion for writing got killed, but it was something you were passionate about. You used to write poetry when you were young or whatever it is. I would say one thing that really helped me get back in the groove was morning pages. So I read this book. What's it called? The
the
Artist's
artist's
Way.
way.
Yeah. So I
Yes.
read that book, recommendation of a friend, because at the time I was struggling to get back on that writing mode. And my friend recommended me that book, and I started doing the morning pages. And just the fact that I didn't have to censor myself, that I could just write whatever it was. It doesn't matter if it's something crazy or if it's a song or if it's just blah, 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 blah. Me literally writing blah, blah, blah. But the fact that I'm just doing the exercise and I'm doing it consistently, you eventually kind of unblock that part of your brain that goes like, oh yeah, I can be creative. I can write whatever I want. Like I'm not limited by anything. I'm just limited by my own self. And that really, really helped me. I still do it. I don't do it as often as before, like every single day, but I do it like at least 3 to 5 times a week.
I'm on week 3 right now. It's a 12-week
Awesome.
12-week program, I think, if you're actually going through the book in order. I'm on week 3, and I took the last week off because I was on vacation, and I haven't gotten back to it yet. But man, the amount of anger that came up for me in the first 3 weeks was astounding, because I've never really been that introspective before. I've never really looked at my own thoughts that much. It's always about like, what am I doing? What do I have to be doing? But I just got so angry about so many things. I had no idea.
It's crazy. I personally, when I did it, I said, I'm not going to read anything I write until I finish the whole book. And it was like a
Yeah.
big book. I'm now on like my second big book. And early this year, I reread everything. That was like a collection of like, I think 2 years. And man, was I pissed off too. Because I was like, I'm seeing a lot of repeating patterns here. And a lot of things that I was struggling with, that it was just my emotions and myself blocking me from, struggling with relationships and things like that. I will see certain things like cycle through. And eventually I will see that fizz out, be like, oh, it doesn't matter anymore. But it's a good habit to do and to have, and especially to read it back. I wouldn't suggest read it back immediately that you just wrote it, but I would say like do what I did, which is like set a specific date or a specific target to reread it back because it will surprise you so much. So I do that. Well, once I complete the whole notebook, I reread the whole thing.
What a great idea. Because then you can notice those patterns or behaviors or thoughts, and notice things that you want to change that you might not notice when you're caught up in them. But when you can look at them from an outside observer, that's that's a really good idea. I'm going to do that when I finish. Um, so you eventually left Puerto Rico
Yes,
and you live in LA now.
yes.
And what's your primary source of it? Do you have a primary source of income, or is it kind of all, I get the sense you do a lot of things.
I do a lot of things. So my primary source of income that varies month per month because there's certain months, certain things pay more than others. Uh, but I would say right now, today, my primary source of income is still acting, uh, doing my acting work productions. I currently have a Wendy's national commercial campaign going. So you might see me selling your frosty in your TV.
I don't
Uh,
have TV.
well, whoever has a TV these days or the internet, you can find it. Put Wendy's Frosty commercial 2019, you find it. And so yeah, I have that. I've been on a series called Stop the Bleeding. That specifically, it's kind of like The Office and Parks and Recreation. So it's like that mockumentary style. It's comedy. It's for all ages. Kids can watch it too. But it's specifically about the bleeding disorders community. So people that are going through hemophilia, they got diagnosed since they were young or since they were kids with hemophilia. It's a bleeding disorder that a lot of people are not aware of. Even when I got casted in this show, I had no idea what it was. So the creator of the show created it because his brother died of hemophilia, and he has hemophilia himself. So he created the show to kind of raise awareness. And I'm on season 6, 7, and 8 of the show. It's online. You can look it up on YouTube, Facebook.
What was that called
And
again?
I've been Stop the Bleeding web series. You put Stop the Bleeding web series, you'll find it online. Yeah, and I've been in many TV shows, a couple movies, not as many as I would like to, but just a couple movies. I work with people like, from the unknowns to like the Key and Peele. Jennifer Lopez, Halle Berry, Kevin Hart, uh, all these awesome people that people know about. And yeah, it's been a really cool experience, but it didn't happen overnight. So I went from Puerto Rico. It was it was like a slightly tough decision for me when I was in 12th grade because from the moment that I was like in at least freshman to what's after freshman, sophomore, because in Spanish is different. So I'm like trying to translate in my head. And so when I was a sophomore, I pretty much knew what I was gonna do. I was like, okay, I'm moving to the States. So that's what my sisters did. They all moved to the States, and I'm gonna go and pursue acting out there. I'm gonna try to make it to film, and eventually, at some point, make it to LA and do that. And when I was in 12th grade, in senior year, that's when my whole life took like a 180. Because for the first time in my entire life, I was confused. Because that's the year that everybody and their mama is putting like pressure on you to decide where you going, where you studying. This is the decision for the rest of your life. And my mom specifically wanted me to have a real job. She said like you need to either be a lawyer or a doctor or something that actually pays bills and stuff. Like you can like go get a college education, then get a job, and that's your life. But I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like I think I'm gonna do acting. But in my senior year in high school, I have so much pressure from everybody. They're like, am I staying? Am I leaving? What am I doing? And at the time, I got offered a lot of things that a lot of people do not get offered these things. But basically, I got offered pretty much a TV deal in Puerto Rico, and local television. I got offered to be part of a touring theater company in Puerto Rico, and I got offered more opportunities in Puerto Rico when I was growing up there. But I had the opportunity to meet with one of the most uh, what how do you say that word? One of the most established Puerto Rican actors there. That he's constantly doing plays, constantly on local television, commercials, stuff like that. And I had a serious conversation with him, and I asked him about his life and like how is it? Is it tough? Does he like his life? Like how is it? And he told me that he was very straightforward with me. He told me, listen, for me to make a living, for me to have like a normal life, I have to be in three places at the same time. So that's three different scripts that he's learning, and it's not like a one pager. Like each script, we're talking about 90 pages. Uh, so he has to memorize three of those at a time for him to be okay. And he told me the story about one day he was doing a play. He got out of the play to go see his father in the hospital. And then after he saw his father in the hospital, he had to go do this other play. And on the way to his play, his father died. And he pretty much had to go and do the play. Like he's the main guy. You know, if he doesn't show up, people already bought tickets, all this stuff. And he has to perform like nothing happened. And to me, that sounded like the answer for me to leave. Because I was like, I do not want to go through that. The reason I even want to do this is because A, I love it and I have a passion for it, and B, I know if I work hard enough, I can make enough income for me to not deal with situations like that specific situation you're telling me. So if God forbid a family member of mine is in a tough situation, I can actually go and help, or I can like get out of what I'm doing to be with that person. I'm not like obligated to do certain things. Like I pretty much control my life. So that's what I was seeking, and that gave me the answer for me to leave. So I took everything and moved to Florida. And the first couple weeks, I crashed in my older sister's couch in West Palm Beach, Florida. I tried stand-up comedy, and that was like a make it or break it situation for me. I was like, if people laugh, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. If they don't laugh, I'm gonna quit today. And thankfully, people laughed. Out of 16 comedian, I was named top three. So I was like, cool. I still don't know if people were laughing at my jokes or the fact that I had a really, really bad accent in English, because I was the first English speaker of my family too. That's a whole another thing. And yeah, and then after that, me and my younger sister moved to Gainesville, Florida, Gator Country. That's where University of Florida is at. And I started my journey in Santa Fe College, so a community college. I majored there in theater and post production.
And then from there, you went out to LA, or how did that transformation happen?
So from there, I was in a, like, after maybe a year, year and a half, I went to I was doing this character in my acting class, and it was from an excerpt called "Dreaming in Autistic Colors." So at the time, I was like obsessed with like playing an autistic kid, because I saw Sean Penn and I am Sam, I think it's a movie, and then I
Hmm.
saw Shia LaBeouf on True Confessions, it's like a Disney movie, and I was like, I kind of want to play that character. And I was like doing an acting exercise, but at the time, for some reason, I couldn't get into the character. So I stopped mid exercise. Everybody was doing their thing, and I went straight to the teacher. And I told them, hey, listen, I'm trying really, really hard to get into this character, but I feel like this character is way outside my comfort zone right now, and I can't get into the character. So I feel like I should do something different. I should do something else because it's not my time to do this character. And he's like, yeah, you got time in between classes? He's like, yeah, I got an hour between this class and the next class. He's like, oh, just come to my office when this class opens. Cool. So I went to his office, and he tells me, oh, just sit down. I'll pick a script for you. And he like has like piles and piles of scripts that he's going through. But I have like kind of ADD. I can't just like sit still. I gotta like do something and move. So I started like moving around his office, and I saw a poster that said, AMDA, the American Musical Dramatic Academy. Come here. Jason Derulo graduated from here. Blah, 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 like stuff. And it says, we're in New York. We're in LA. And I said, what's that? And he said, oh, it's a conservatory acting. It's in LA, it's in New York, and blah, 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 and gives me information about it. And I said, cool. Do you think someone like me should like even try to contact that school or audition? He's like, yeah, because you're different from my students. You're more involved. I mean, you're even here right now, spending more time that you shouldn't. Trying to get into a new character. So I think, yeah, you're a good fit for it. So I said, okay, cool. I did my research, look online, make sure the school is accredited, the whole deal. And then I said, okay, whatever. What do I lose? An application, half a day, and $50 to apply. So I sent my application. I auditioned in Orlando. By the way, on the way to the audition, I'm trying to make everything as short as possible, but on the way to the audition was the worst thing ever. So first I'm hungover because I went to a party the night before that I didn't want to go, but my friend was sad if I didn't go. So I went and I drank, and it was bad. So on my way to Orlando, I'm driving my sister's car because my car's in the repair shop, and I'm driving specifically on the right lane because that's what my sister told me because there's a bad tire, and if it pops, then it's easy. And a cop stops me in northern Florida. I experienced, which I didn't know it was real until I moved there. I experienced a lot of racism, and for skin color, and even because I'm Puerto Rican, but mainly skin color, with cops specifically. And this cop was basically, he gave me a ticket for no reason, and started making my day worse. And then that day, I didn't have anything to eat, so I went to McDonald's and like had like some breakfast. I didn't have that much money, and then I went there, and then before my audition, I was feeling sick to my stomach because I was hungover. Plus, I ate McDonald's. Plus, I'm angry. Plus, all these things. I barely slept, and I threw up before my audition. I go to the bathroom and just puke.
Oh,
Just so I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the worst audition of all time because I'm already what else can go worse today? And I go and I do my performance. It's a two contrasting monologues. So I do one comedic and one dramatic. And the lady that evaluated me literally let me stay there for like, which I thought at first was standard. I thought it was, she would do that with everybody because I was like one of the first people to go in. Uh, I was there for like 20 to 30 minutes. And it was mainly because she was like giving me all this praise. She was like, "Oh my God, you remind me of John Leguizamo, and you remind me of this other author and this other artist." And she was just giving me so many compliments. So I wasn't, I didn't even know how to take it because I was like, "Oh, I guess this is standard. I guess they do this to everybody, or I don't know." And then I noticed that everybody else was like in and out, in and out, in and out, and I was the only one that was there for like a long time. And then 5 weeks later, I got offered an acting scholarship. Um, and they asked me if I wanted to move to New York or LA. I picked LA, and it wasn't like a full ride. I still needed to pay some money, so I negotiated things with my mom to see if my mom could give me like an extra help. And then after that, I was set. Like I had a plan and everything, so I just pick up more shifts on my job, picked up a second job, and just started working to save money to make the move to LA. And eventually that fall that year, that the time when I got the scholarship was in spring, and fall that year, which is 2011, that's when I made my move to California in October 11 of 2011.
got it. And you've been there ever since.
Ever since.
So did you finish that program, the
I
acting program?
didn't. I did
Okay.
it for one. I did it for one semester, and then I realized, oh, this is a ripoff. Meaning, I was paying a lot of money for a lot of stuff that I kind of already knew. There were a couple classes that I'm not gonna lie, they were very helpful. One being VPS, voice speech production and reduction. So it was helping me like kind of put my accent down and stuff like that. But most classes, 90% of classes were like things I already knew. And I'm talking about new since Puerto Rico. And I was just like, oh, this is nonsense. If I know all the answers, like I'm here like to learn, and you're giving me stuff that's so basic. And it was confirmed to me by one of my teachers, acting for the camera teacher. He told me that the school on purpose wants to teach people very basic stuff. Like that's like something they like emphasize on like teachers. And so I was just like, yeah, I'm getting out of the school. This is not worth it. Like I could get a place and I can start auditioning and I can start like figuring it on my own. So he encouraged it for me. Uh, and actually, because he was like talking down of the school, he got fired when I moved, when I got out of school. But we still became friends, and he became my mentor. And he was the only teacher that I legit was seeing on TV all the time. Like every time I would watch like a show, he would pop in a commercial, or he was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno at the time, and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm gonna take full advice from this dude. This dude is already doing it, and he helped me a lot to like kind of make sure that I'm not making super huge mistakes in my life, like guiding me a little bit. We'll have like unfrequent lunch meetings, and he will give me like tips and pointers and things that I could do and should do. And at one point, and this was like a very important point in my life, I was living in a studio, super tiny studio that I found. I was paying like about 600 a month, uh, then plus utilities and stuff like that. In my bank account, all I had at this time was $1,600. That's it. Didn't have more than that. I didn't have a job. I didn't have none of that. And I was still acting for 3 months but for free, like fully for free. I was getting paid in Subway sandwiches, and legit, that's how I was getting paid. Because I would take those Subway sandwiches and put in my bag, and that's how I would eat for like a couple of days. And after doing that for a while, there was something that was happening, and that's so in order for you to be on TV, you have to be part of AFTRA, which is the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. They represent everybody on TV and everybody in radio. And in order to be in movies, you have to be in this thing called SAG, so it's the Screen Actors Guild. And at that time, which was 2012, there was something called the merger that was going to happen. So both parties, people from SAG and people from AFTRA, were voting to merge both companies and become SAG AFTRA instead of just SAG and then AFTRA over here. Uh, and at the time, SAG still had the voucher policy, which you need to have at least 3 vouchers to be a must join or SAG eligible, and then pay $2,400 in order to join. For AFTRA, it was an open door policy. So you don't need no vouchers, no nothing. Anybody could join, even your dog or whoever could join, as long as you pay $1,600. And at the time, I was like, well, this seems like it's going to happen now, this merger, because they tried to do it back in 2001 and then back in the 90s, but it never happened. But this time in 2012, it was looking like both parties were really wanting to make this happen. And I was like, man, what should I do? So I sent my mentor like a little message saying like, hey, so the merger is gonna happen, blah blah blah. This is what's happening. I only have $1,600. I just moved here. I'm not getting paid. I don't have a job. Like, and he gave me like this big speech. And essentially, to summarize what he said, he just said like, if you really want it and you have the money, why not? And I really needed that little push to do it, and I did it. But I was scared out of my mind. Because the next day, yes, I became SAG AFTRA. Cool, awesome. I did something that takes people years, if not decades, to accomplish. But I was broke. I had zero in my pocket. I didn't know how I was going to pay rent next month. And I did the last thing that I wanted was a job. Because I was like, I moved here to act. I didn't move here to work. And thankfully, just by miracle of the universe, weeks later, I got a call back for a role that I auditioned. And I got a call back for a whole different role. It wasn't even the original role that I get auditioned, because usually the acting process is you audition for something and you get called back, meaning you would do the same thing you did in the audition. And then if you book it, you book it. This time I auditioned for like a college student. I got called back to be a teacher. And then I got the role of teacher. And I was like, this is weird, because the people that I was teaching, I was pretending to be like an older teacher at the time. I was like, what, 21 or something? I was like super young. And the people playing my students were like 40 and 35. I was like, this is so backwards. But I guess it's their production. I don't mind, because at the end, that production paid me a couple $1,000. And it's called Tu Mundo. And that was a series in cahoots in partnerships with McGraw-Hill. So right now, people that are learning Spanish with McGraw-Hill books, they have a series to be in companion with, and I'm on that series, and I'm also on the books. So whoever's learning that, I'm there.
Wow. So were you just this young looking guy with older students, or how did that work
Well, I
visually?
had they put glasses on me. Then they gave me like a crutch thing, because I was a teacher. I was a Spanish teacher with an impediment. I couldn't like walk properly. And just the clothes they gave me, I just looked slightly older. And the clothes they gave the kids, it was like younger. But literally, like I was on set constantly going like, this is so backwards. like like I should be a student, and some of them should be the teacher, but I do what I have to do.
Do you
It
know
wasn't my it,
what
what was
it
that?
was that put you in the role of teacher instead?
I don't know. I guess I played it well. Because that's the thing. Is like when I get character roles, I do better. When I have to be more of a character instead of like a real person. Uh, and because even when I was when I was in 10th grade, when I was a sophomore in high school, I played a 80-year-old man, and they had to put like 4 to 5 hours of makeup on me just to make me look old because I have such a baby face. Because literally when I got casted, the teacher was like, "Oh my god, uh, I casted you because you're the best one doing it, but you have such a baby face that it's like we're gonna have to put a lot of makeup on you." And I'm like, I don't care. Like I'll
That's
do whatever it has.
insane.
Yeah,
For a high school play, I mean, awesome, but for a high school play, that just sounds like so much.
yeah, yeah. But
Um,
I was committed. I was like, give me like, I'm always gonna go for the best roles. Whatever that role, I love it because it was so funny in the beginning and so dramatic at the end. So I love anytime that I get the chance to do that, that I can make you laugh really hard and then make you cry. I'm always gonna go for those roles because that to me that's the ultimate challenge. You can make people laugh and also make them cry. It's insane. So I that's the reason I got driven for that specific role, and I try to when I audition, I played it to the T, like how they really wanted it to be played.
so what do you attribute all your success to? Like any influencers? Clearly, that teacher you told me about made a big impact, the one who encouraged you to, pursue your passions. But like, how did you go from small town, well, maybe not small town, might not be the right word, but from Puerto Rico to like making it in LA? What helped you get
I
there?
would I would say like the thing that helped me the most when it comes to that specific question you asked is observation. I was, I think I'm definitely the best at observing what other people are doing. So how I learned acting is, of course, I had the skill. I had the skill of school, memorizing stuff, and how I got to embody characters was because I used to spend a lot of time in the mall. So I would watch how people walk. I would watch how old people walk, how younger females walk, and I would imitate that constantly because that was the only way at the time for me to like have fun, like create some scenario in my head. I was like, I'm gonna walk like that person, and now I'm gonna walk like this other person, and so observation helped a lot, and then just emulating excellence. So I was at the beginning, I didn't have too many mentors because I wasn't exposed to a lot of people, but I was a big Kobe Bryant fan. So I was seeing how he carried himself in the court and how he always wanted to be the best in the court. I saw people like in stand up comedy like Dave Chappelle and John Leguizamo. I saw how they carry themselves, how they embody these characters, how they like committed 300% to the joke they were doing, even if it wasn't the best joke, but they just completely sold it to you like it was the best joke of all time. And I observed that and I carry myself that way. I will say one of the when I picked up reading, uh, which I know we never really got to that part, but in 2014 I got into a really bad car accident that I almost died, and because I couldn't walk, I wasn't and everything that I did was relying on me and being physical, acting, comedy, and stuff like that. I needed to learn how to make money online. And at the time, the only opportunity that came my way was network marketing. So I started doing that stuff. And one thing that I'm extremely grateful for network marketing is the people I got exposed to. Because I got exposed to, of course, scammy people and people that just want to take people's money. But I also got exposed to people that really want to better themselves. And I got exposed to personal development and things like that. And I was noticing that all these people were like reading books and all these people were going to conferences and all these people were like trying to like help each other be better. And I was like, I want to be part of this. Like, this is my community. This is my tribe. This is the people I want to be with. So one of the first books I read was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and that's like one of the only books that made me cry. Like, I legit was reading crying, and I was like, wow, like I want to read even more. And then I started following characters. People are out there speaking. Like Gary V is one of them. I was like, for the longest time, the biggest Gary V nerd. Just following him around. When can I meet this dude? When can I meet this dude? And then one of my biggest mentors, and that's the reason I got 5 wristbands, and I got 10 every year. Cole Hatter. When he started Thrive, I was like one of the first people to hear about that, because I was like, at that time I was like super into self development, that I was like constantly listening to personal development podcasts. And in one podcast, I hear, oh, this thing called Thrive. It's like a new thing, blah blah blah. And then I hear in another one, I was listening to Ty Lopez then, and then I hear about Thrive again. And I was like, man, I need to go. And then they secured Gary Vee for the first one. And I was like, I have to go. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. I maxed out a credit card. I didn't even have the money to go. Got a Greyhound, got an Airbnb, the whole deal. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going. And from then on, like, I got to, it's insane. But like, specifically Thrive, that's the reason I attend. Because I was going to conferences before Thrive, but every conference that I attend, it was like very salesy. Like, they trying to sell you 1,000 things and all this stuff. And sometimes the people you meet, they're not the best people either. They're like okay people. Uh, so when I went to Thrive, that was the first time that it's like, wow, like, not only is the conference awesome and the speakers are great, but the people around me are like super great. And that's how I met with Juvan. He's the actual founder of the Mentor. That we empower young kids, specifically middle school, to be better men. We teach them about meditation. We teach them about emotional intelligence. We teach them about how to communicate with their peers and communicate what they're feeling. Because a lot of these kids, we started with Lenox Middle School, which is a middle school by LAX, and these schools are located literally between like a couple miles from the beach. And these kids, even though they're a couple miles from the beach, they never been in the beach in a beach in their lives, and it's insane. That is like they have that environment so close to each other, but they haven't even seen that side of life. They only been around their neighborhood, and they only see the trouble that's happening around their neighborhood. And that's the reason they're constantly living in fear, and they don't feel like they can't trust other people. And the reason they started to trust us is because we didn't just go there and gave a speech one day and we left. It's like we went there once a month for 2.5 years straight. So these kids, they were seeing like, oh, these people are serious and these people are doing things, and that's the reason they opened up to us, and that was such a successful program. That right now is on hiatus, but like it's something that I encourage, and I want more people to do, uh, like around the world, because if we have better men, we will have a better world. Uh, and yeah, like and going there also to Thrive, I met people like Joel Brown. He's the he's a creator of a website, a blog that I was following at that time for a long time, called addictedtosuccess.com. And it just blogs about putting yourself in that mindset of success, and what successful habits, and get a morning routine and things like that. And I was just getting more exposed to all this information there. And I met John Lee Dumas. He's the founder of Entrepreneur on Fire. They do. He actually lives in Puerto Rico now. And I met Lewis House. That also became a huge mentor for me. He helped me get off my mindset of like, I want to save the world, because I was that type of person before. I was like, people ask me, what do you want to do? I want to help the world. I want to save the world. And he was the one that kind of smacked me in the face, not figuratively, not literally, but like he told me, listen, Steve, I get it that you want to do that and you want to be a good person and you want to give back, but you can't give if you don't take care of yourself first. You need to make sure you take care of yourself first, make sure you're good, everything emotionally, financially, in every aspect, so then you can share that with the world. And he told me that, he gave me a big hug and told me that straight to my face. And that only happens at Thrive. And yeah, like I thankfully I've been able to hang out with him and do stuff like that. And again, all that started from going to that conference and meeting one of the best mentors I have today, which is Cole. I love that dude to death. So
That conference is just indescribable.
hmm
I've only been to two of them, and I can't get people to get it until they're there. And
yeah,
then they're there and they're like, "Oh, I've never been to anything like this." I mean, the people in the room are just they're just all really good human beings who want to help and who are doing well in business and but want to help. Like nobody's in it to be scammy or to, take advantage of you, or they're not in it for themselves. They're in it for everyone.
no, there's a dude that didn't even go to the conference. He didn't go. He just I met someone at the end of the conference. His name is Brock Wyatt. He's actually right now in the mastermind because they're having a mastermind right now at Cole's house. But I met him, and then there was a post event on Sunday called the Elevator Night by
Mhm.
Dan. I went there, and he introduced me to another guy that he didn't go to the conference, but he attended the elevator thing. And that guy is build is basically partnering up with another guy that they already have territory in Mexico, and they essentially are printing homes from 3D printers for like little tiny houses basically for the homeless and to create the campaign and stuff because they're doing like a crowdfunding type of thing and they raising millions of dollars to for the editing of all that they needed help and me with the Thrive mentality I was like hey if you ever need help in whatever way shape or form I'm in LA I'm Steve nice to meet you let me know give him my phone number literally between like maybe a week later from that, he gave me a call because he needed help editing a few things. He flew to LA. We got that done, and boom, and I helped him doing that. And yeah, it's that whole Thrive mentality that we're not really trying to seek like monetary gain or anything. It's more like how can I help you? You know, I have certain skills that. Oop, there we
You're
go.
back.
Yeah, we have certain skills that we can help each other with and you know when you connect with other people then you figure out that like life ain't so hard after all because there's certain things that you can always like have help from others and other people are more than willing to help.
Yeah. And I think we forget that. I think we get all bent out of shape about asking for help because there are people who don't want to help because they're selfish or lazy or just too busy. Um, but that I think we need to remember that if we help other people and they're more likely to help us, and I think it just makes a better community overall.
Yeah.
Um, and it goes back to what you were saying about the mentor program about how you made a difference for these kids by just showing up reliably. Um, People ask me all the time how I make a difference for my students, like the ones who just won't get work done for anyone else, and I can make them do work. It's because they don't give up. I keep showing up even on the times when they don't want to do work or aren't going to get work done or are avoiding it like anything. And I keep showing up and I keep coming from a loving place and from a positive place. And eventually they see that consistency and it works.
hmm
Um, so, I mean, I really could talk to you for a million more hours, but I won't. Um, but any words of wisdom for kids or parents, kids or their parents, kids who feel different, who feel like they don't really fit the school mold, like how to get themselves finding that passion, or just getting to their creative selves.
uh, So for the kids first, I always start with the kids. Um, this is my advice to you. In life, there's times where, especially young, you're gonna get to do a lot of things you don't want to do, and that's okay. Make sure the free time that you have, use it to do things you really want to do, or maybe things you're curious about. When I was younger, I wanted to do music, but for the longest time, I couldn't because I didn't have the money or the resources or whatever to hire a teacher or hire a coach and things like that. And now in my life, in the future, now I get to do music. I'm literally been working on music for the past year, which I never thought that would ever happen, but it's something that I'm doing now. So when you're younger, you're going to do a lot of things you don't want to do. Um, I feel like, especially your teenage years and your 20s, most of your 20s, is for you to try stuff, to keep trying stuff until you find the things that you enjoy doing, you love doing. You could just be happy doing those things every day. So by the time you're in your late 20s or early 30s, you can fully focus on those things you want to do and completely all the things you don't want to do, you just leave them behind or give it to someone else or pay someone else to do them for you. And and yeah, so discover, play, create, just find the things that make you more you as a whole. What are those things? You have to discover them by yourself, and that's the fun part. For parents, I would say let your kids be. Jesus, like please, let them be. If they're inclining towards something you don't necessarily want them to do or you don't approve, or maybe it was something you were doing and you were like, I don't want my kid to do that. It's like let them experience that part of their lives or talk to them through it as well. Give them advice, give them things that they can avoid, pitfalls. That's one thing that I'm constantly searching for mentors is that what are the biggest mistakes they did so I can avoid those and I can get much faster to where I'm trying to get. But at the end of the day, everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different purpose. Everybody has a different code. And not everybody is necessarily going to do exactly what you want them to do. The only thing you can truly control in your life is your own life. And regardless whether you are a parent, always know that you will never be perfect and you can only do your best. And at the end of the day, whether it takes your kid a decade to realize that, they will later in life realize that you did your best and they will be more than happy with just that. You don't have to give them everything. You don't have to give them everything in a spoon. Certain things your kids have to figure out by themselves as well. And you have to allow them to have that opportunity.
That is like the best advice I've ever heard on both ends for kids and adults. I love your take. You're gonna have things that you don't want to do and you're going to have to do them, but don't forget to do the things you do want to do when you have time. I think that's so huge. Sometimes we get caught up in doing the things we don't want to do, and then we don't save our energy, or we choose not to take our energy for the things we do want to do. So got to have both. um, I'm going to leave it right there. That was just really good. um, Thank you. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch, or watch your Wendy's Frosty commercials or anything else?
For everything online, Steve Des TV. That's Steve STEVEDEZ as television, but short. If you're interested in listening to, if you're more of an audio person and you love podcasts, I recently just started my podcast called The Steve Des Show. It should be available on Spotify and on Google Podcasts. It should soon be on Apple Podcasts. I'm still waiting to see what's going on there. But yeah, The Steve Des Show, that's my podcast. And if you're more of a video person, I have a channel where I just speak about stuff. What's that stuff? It could be about personal development. It could be about finances. It could be about topics that I'm just interested on. And that's Steve Des Speaks on YouTube. Steve Des Speaks.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for helping me out since I have no idea what I'm doing. Um, and saying yes to be here. That whole thrive mentality you were talking about.
Of course, I'm more than happy to be here. I was super excited when I had the opportunity to jump into this. So I'm happy that you have me on. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, and I can't wait for everyone to hear it.
For sure. And before we leave, what are you grateful for?
I'm sorry.
I said, before we leave, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful, A, that you were here and you came and said yes to coming on my show. I am grateful for Thrive and all of the people in Thrive. Um, and on a smaller scale, but not less impactful, I'm really grateful that I had a wonderful day earlier today at the aquarium with my kids and some out of town friends. Feel like I've been really busy with business stuff and everything, and I haven't connected with my kids as much as I'd like to, but today I definitely got that time in, so I'm grateful for that. What about you?
Ooh, I'm grateful for the fact that I got to wake up today and do my morning routine smoothly. I'm super grateful for having to have an early lunch meeting that helped me prepare for our meeting today. And I am super duper grateful that you're creating such a wonderful platform that you not only sharing your space to introduce people like me and other cool and amazing people that I'm sure you're going to have here. Uh, and that chance to really communicate like what's truthful uh, that I know is going to benefit a lot of kids and a lot of parents listening.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for being here. Take
Of
care.
course. Take care.